Salutations everyone, this is Razor bringing you guys another Overwatch video here today to talk about the DPS role, because it really is an easy role, but people super overcomplicate things, and it seems like such a, there's never going to be a perfect situation every single time of, oh, if I pick this character, if we play, this thing, because, you're relying a lot on your teammates, and you can't solo carry in this game. It's almost impossible, and when it comes to doing that multiple times to build up an SR, that's not gonna happen. So I don't get to play DPS very often because the queue times and all that. But I try to get my 5 placement games in per season, and typically when I queue up all 3 roles, and I've gotten damage 3 times all time. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but sometimes it does happen. It's a surprising as fuck, and has a less than 1% chance of actually happening. And I'm not even going to show you guys me when I'm doing really well on DPS. I'm playing some really weak sauce, lazy, not very good, not very flashy DPS, just to kind of show how easy it is. I'm not popping off on, my Hanzo or my Tracer or something like that. I'm just playing Mei because she's super easy and she has wall, right? The best ability in the entire history of the universe. It can block every single ultimate in the world except for her own, so she can't even counter herself. And it stops chokes, and it completely splits teams off, and it has this insanely short cooldown. And even with the upcoming nerfs to her, is going to be incredibly impactful. She never needed 200 ammo anyway. How often do you actually have to reload as Mei? Maybe if you're spamming icicle shots, down a hallway, before a team fight even starts. And now she's going to be able to do that even more. So it's really hard to say that this is going to be any sort of nerf at all. And I'm not going to say that my icicle shots are on point. I get, pretty good snipes, but here and there. But there's the power that she has, the power that she gives away for free is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, the fact that her icicles have no range drop off and is basically a better sniper than Hanzo is just kind of insane. It really is kind of insane because of the fire rate and the amount that you can shoot, and she doesn't put out a ton of damage. The Mei McCree combo that we saw a lot in Overwatch League was not a high damage one. So that's why you could get away with, Zen Brigitte as your healers. But as you can see, my gameplay is not flashy, and I think both teams here are running Sigma. No one's running Reinhardt. Our team is running Ball, and their team is running Zarya, which is by far the most incorrectly played character in all of Overwatch. But I'll make my own video on that. I have touched on it in the past, but it's due for an update. So, we have Doomfist, and at least we have a Moira, right? We have someone who can facilitate that main heal role, and Zen isn't terrible because he can put his orb on Ball or Doomfist, 2 very mobile, hard to heal characters when they are on the move and doing their impactful job. But as you can see, as Mei, not playing very well, completely controlled that entire match with just wall and a couple of good shots, and really not even that many freezes, and only 1 ultimate that I think got just like two or 3 kills. I think it was 3 kills. And so since this is a much more open map, and I'm pretty decent at Pharah, I decided to go with the Pharah here. It's actually had been a long time at this point since I had played any DPS role, and especially Pharah. Pharah is my most played DPS throughout competitive mode, specifically because people just don't know how to counter Pharah. They think that, I'll just pick DPS and that'll, pick a hit scan and I'll be fine, when most hit scans are actually garbage against Pharah. McCree's really bad against Pharah. Soldier's pretty darn bad against Pharah. And so people just don't know how to deal with Pharah, so I take advantage of that. And, that's going to be the case for, the bottom 98% and possibly even higher, because people are just not used to having to deal with Pharah. They tend to bring her up a lot and be like, oh man, what if they run a Pharah? We have to run a hit scan. And hit scans are pretty bad against Pharah. And they even ran a Pharah themselves, which is actually probably the best way of dealing with the Pharah, matching her damage or dueling her in the sky. And the second of which would be pulling out a D.Va, but people don't really play D.Va. Especially, you know, in the past couple of years when she hasn't been uber meta and does not synergize nearly as well with Reinhardt in a lot of team comps because of how messy the fights are. Sometimes Zarya, or more oftentimes than not, Zarya is the better way to go on a large majority of maps, including 2CP and Control. So, as you can see, I'm not nailing a ton of direct shots. You know, I'm winning the Pharah duel. I think I kill her 3 times or so, and she doesn't kill me once, and I don't die actually at all. And we're just gonna take down this is the fight. This is the rest of the game right here. Just shooting at their spawn because there's nothing they can do. People don't like changing heroes. That is a very, very rare thing that you see in competitive or quick play. Because people have this weird mindset of maining, and they are also like really stubborn, right? They feel like they don't need to change or adapt, and that is one of the biggest follies. Even when things are going well, you still should be swapping if the map or the game changes up the narrative, and you have to deal with a new threat depending on the geometry of the map or the composition of the enemy. So, you know, typically sometimes when I'm running Pharah, people will like, oh, okay, we need to switch to a McCree and a Soldier, and I just absolutely dunk on those fools because, you know, McCree and Soldier, well, you know, most DPS players are pretty dumb and pretty garbage, and that's not because they play DPS, it's just that the vast majority of people who play Overwatch only play the damage role, and so therefore you're going to have the most amount of idiots on that role than any other role. And you know, that wasn't as much of a problem back in the day when the DPS was the least important role and had the worst characters. You know, the tanks were everything. The best comp of all time was using 0 damage, and it was using 3 tanks and trying to keep them up as much as possible with 3 healers. But now with the changes, DPS are just so uber strong, and there's really nothing to stop them, and it's easy to just pick Junkrat and get free damage, just free spam, free tires that win game fights with multi-kills. And it's easy to just pick Bastion and just spray and destroy these uber weak shields that people have, but people don't do that. People don't pick Mei and Ice Wall for the win. People don't pick Pharah and shoot down at people who don't shoot back. People will pick Genji and try to ninja things. People pick Sombra and they don't generate EMPs uber quickly like they should, because people that play the damage role really don't know how to play the damage role. And when you have such an easy option and such a dominating option as Mei or Bastion, people just don't pick it. They never have, and they probably never will. People don't want to pick the easy option or the good option in the game where you're supposed to care about winning. Instead, they go Shimada Bros, or they go Torbjorn when you're on attack in Eichenwalde, or you know, some ludicrous thing like that. But so they have a very easy job, but they are trying to make it as hard as possible on themselves. And this goes to show, you saw my skill isn't very great, but just having the correct times to Mei wall only a few times a match wins the match outright. And taking advantage of a poor enemy team comp is easiest to do from the damage roll, because there's very few tanks you can choose from, and one of them has to be Reinhardt on your team, or you're pretty much throwing. And you have, you know, a lot of healers that you can choose from who can facilitate a lot of different comps and different roles, but if you're getting dove on, the healers can't do anything about it. If there's a soldier on high ground, a healer can't do anything about that. You either have to get a dive tank to get up there, or one of your own DPS to challenge that. And so whatever the win condition is, there's always a character or a playstyle that a DPS player can fulfill to get that win condition when that is not so easy on damage and healers. and people just don't really contest damage. People, they see a big target like a tank, and then they shoot at that, you know? And so, like, I can tell you, as someone who majority of the time plays healer, I don't get harassed very often at all. When there is an enemy tracer who knows what they're doing, that is the most dangerous thing that can happen to me. Because, you know, then it makes Ana very difficult, and I have to, you know, switch up to, you know, Lucio or something, and I'm not able to support the tank line as well because they aren't coordinated as well together as they should be. And that, or, you know, or a really good Doomfist can just, you know, boom, get in there and, you know, kill whomever your other healing partner is, and then just, you know, snowball things from there. I can tell you, I'm not really harassed whenever I play Ana. I'm never really in danger when I play Lucio or Moira or Brigitte, or the few times that I do get to play Zen. People always focus on the tanks because they're a big, easy target, and, you know, while sometimes it is a good idea to farm ult as a tracer shooting at a Roadhog or whatever, or if someone trying to farm EMP as well as hacking the Reinhardt as much as possible, people don't focus on the soldier that's winning the game by himself just because he's on high ground. People don't focus on the Mercy who is carrying that entire enemy team because she's getting a res target and successfully rezzing every 30-40 seconds. The damage roll can take care of those problems, but they don't, and that leads to a lot of losses, and they just aren't making things easy on themselves when they can just pick Junkrat, when they can just pick Mei, when they just pick Bastion. And that's really frustrating whenever I'm in the tank or the healer role, and it's like the other person won't play Reinhardt. I have to play Reinhardt. I can't do much about that soldier on high ground. I can't help our healers getting harassed by this Sombra or something, right? Either the other healer has to peel for them and bodyguard, or one of the DPS, or my off tank, right? So it's always frustrating whenever you have your damage characters not doing their role, because their job has never been easier with these super low amount of shields, and how, you know, how buffed so many of those characters got during the GOATS era in order to try to hurt the tanks, when it only helped the DPS in the wrong one because they never got re-nerfed in the first place. Mei is finally getting a nerf, but it's really not going to do much. She can still freeze multiple targets without ever having to reload, and now she can shoot more icicles. And her wall, while not as on short of a cooldown as it once was theoretically at some point, is still the best entire single ability in the whole game, and it can win team fights by itself. So you don't have to be good on Bastion to win games. You don't have to be good on Junkrat to win games. You don't have to be good on Mei to win games. But if you just pick them in the right, you know, times and do a couple of key things, it takes so much pressure off of your tank line and your support line that facilitates them to be able to do their job, and I'll just get more wins. But people aren't really doing that right now.